Welcome to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com, State Farm, and WeatherTech. Here's your MotorWeek podcast host, Brian Robinson.
Hello and welcome to podcast number 169. Joining me around this oddly shaped blanket-covered table is our road test producer, Ben Davis.
Hey, guys.
Our online content coordinator, Greg Carlos.
Hello.
And, of course, our video producer, editor, podcast producer, Joe Ligo.
The blankets for sound absorption.
Okay.
That's
also
a barrel of
also wiping your
personality
nose,
there.
apparently.
It's all right. Now that we've cleared that up, what we got coming up today is a look through some recent road test vehicles we've been in. Of course, our lightning round and a viewer question, and maybe a little rant and or rave for you.
I got one, too.
Oh, man.
Save it.
All right.
Before we get there, we're going to look at a couple Fords that Greg has recently been behind the wheel of. Mustang, we'll start there.
Yeah, just got back from Malibu. Nice little trip out there. So the Mustang, it seems like it hasn't been that long since the new one came out, but it has been a couple years. So naturally, with the current automotive industry, that's long overdue for a mid-cycle refresh. This is actually more than just a facelift. The front end looks a little bit different. The rear end looks different. You can get some LEDs up front and behind the rear. But now they're keeping up with the Camaro with horsepower. They've added some horsepower and torque.
And they got rid of an engine, didn't they? There's no more
now,
V6?
So, right. I don't know if they completely got rid of it. That's something I
think they still have it, but it's mainly
it's not the
rental fleets and
it's
stuff.
not the base engine
It's
anymore.
hard to even find them. Yeah.
The EcoBoost is the base engine, and that actually gets a boost in torque too.
Awesome.
Already a torquey engine. Yeah, it's driving it. I remember being won over by the EcoBoost we drove probably a year ago.
We all loved it, Ben especially.
I love that car, yeah. We drove it with a auto, right?
Yeah, and the automatic transmission is now at 10-speed.
Is that a dual clutch auto?
No, it's just a standard torque converter.
It's the same
Co-developed with GM, which is very odd to think that
Yeah.
Ford and GM
Not
built
to
a
get off track,
transmission together.
could you get an EcoBoost with a manual?
You can get an EcoBoost with a manual, I believe.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So there's no new engines. They just bumped up the horsepower.
Correct. Yeah. Still, you get the 5-liter, and you still get the EcoBoost engine. Like I said, torque goes up in the EcoBoost, which is cool, even though it really didn't need a torque boost because that thing had a lot of torque already. And the Mustang GT goes up in horsepower and torque. You also get an available active exhaust valve mode, which basically is it offers maybe 4 modes. And one of them is for when you're going into your neighbor. I think they even call it like good neighbor mode.
Nice.
Where if you don't want to
Like
anger all your neighbors
Mustang,
with your awesome sounding 5-liter. And it does sound, I'm not being facetious, it does sound really good. But if you want to quiet it down, you can, and it gets really quiet. So I can attest to that. Then you have sport and track mode, and it gets real loud and things like that. Drove it for a while. I didn't drive it as much as I drove the Expedition, which I'll be talking about later. Has the new 10-speed automatic transmission. It seems like there are a lot of gears, and you know that there are a lot of gears, especially in this application. Between the rev matching on the downshifts, there's just a ton of noise associated with downshifts, and it seems like it's not hunting for gears, but when I would get into a mode where I'd want to accelerate, it seems like it would go from, like, let's say 8th to 4th really quickly. But then right after it chooses 4th, it would second guess itself and maybe go down into 3rd. So it's weird because it's not like a gear hunting situation. It just sometimes it second guesses itself. But the shifts
can't
themselves.
make up its mind.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm explaining it the right way, but that's the way it felt to me.
I'll just have to watch a road test of it, and then I'll explain it better.
But
We need to get it out on a track, see if it does a better job than
for sure, yeah.
Camaro's.
Performance pack, and you can now, I think there's a level 2 performance pack. Also, you can get magnetic dampers. I think you could only get those on the GT350 originally. Now you can get them on a GT.
Awesome.
So does this swing things back into, like, in your eyes, back to Mustang, or like which would you prefer, Mustang or Camaro?
From a daily driver standpoint, I'd have to go with Mustang just because the comfort inside is better. You can see better, but I'd have to take it to a track to really compare, because we have taken Camaros to the track, and they're just it's hard to beat a Camaro, honestly, on a track.
I did like that GT350 on the track. A quick question, because I just love EcoBoost Mustang so much. How far is it off the Focus RS EcoBoost motor? It's the same size. It's the same motor, right? But
2.3 liter.
from what I remember, that had 350 horse in the RS.
That's a good. I don't remember the EcoBoost numbers on it right now. I don't know if Joe can look it up on his fancy telephone.
Thanks, guys. Sorry.
I'll look them up on my dumb phone here. And
I was just curious. It'd be awesome if it was the same, or I'm sure with a few $100 you could get there.
Well, before we get to that, what other Ford were you driving at?
Drove the Expedition, which is probably maybe even bigger news than the Mustang, because it is all new. It's been about 10 years since the Expedition was redone. This one gets a 3.5 liter twin turbo EcoBoost, 400 horsepower, 480 pound-feet of torque.
Very similar to the Raptor motor.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar, because it also has the 10-speed automatic transmission. You don't get paddle shifters like you do in a Raptor, but who really cares in an Expedition? It's such a big SUV. I forgot about that.
They don't make many like that anymore.
It's still a truck-based SUV, not a crossover.
Body on frame SUV.
Did they add a lot of aluminum stuff, since it's F-150 shares some of the F-150s? Yep. Aluminum body.
Keeping up with the new
stuff.
Ford scheme of aluminum bodies. Yes, it's mostly aluminum body. Still a steel frame, but they claim to have lost 300 pounds overall. But then I think they're a little bit vague on, I don't have the weight numbers in front of me, but I think they just put that weight back into other places of the car, like connectivity.
Sure, yeah.
So you get Wi-Fi.
Safety systems.
Right. There's USB ports in each row, which is huge nowadays.
Ben likes that.
Benny D likes that.
I like. Everybody does.
10-speed in this application, super smooth, really in the background, which is where you want the transmission. A ton of leg room. It has segment leading leg room in the second row and third row. Third row is still not somewhere you want to hang out for a lot of your time in the car, but
it's bigger than like a crossover with a third row.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Like real person could fit in there, not just a kid.
Yeah, and then you can also get the extended wheelbase version.
Kids aren't real people?
A real adult person. Sorry for the lack of.
So is there any reason that you would buy it over a Suburban?
Probably just looks, and you can't get a V8 in it. All you get is the V6, the EcoBoost. It just comes down to, in a segment like this where, people want, it's going to come down to the engine, and it's going to come down to interior comfort, because nobody really cares how it drives, honestly. Yeah, it's big and heavy. You're not going to be driving it as fast as you can. So it's going to come down to, and it seems like they've got connectivity on par or maybe even better than Chevy right now. It's just personal preference, honestly, and if you're a Ford person or a Chevy person. But the price, I mean, I remember I just looked at it. It's between like 50 and 80 grand. It's a lot of money. That is a ton of money for if you want a 3-row SUV, and then you got to wonder, can I get a minivan for less money?
Yeah, they're not that much less, to be honest with you. That last Odyssey Elite we had in was pushing 50, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So nice vehicle, nice ride. It's just a matter of preference.
Yeah, that thing is large. Just the press photos that you sent.
Yeah,
back.
they also have a
so big.
Do they still have the EL version or whatever? Like
the long. Yeah, you can still get the long wheelbase on every trim, and then there's also an FX4 trim, which is an off-road package. Electronic limited slip diff, different driving modes. You get some all-terrain tires, different wheels, and things like that. So if you're into off-roading your Expedition, then there's a choice for you.
See, the thing I'm excited, and I know you're all going to laugh, the thing I'm excited is to see the Navigator, which is going to have similar updates, chassis, engine, body updates to that, except a lot more luxurious. And the nice thing is this time around they don't quite look like they were just carbon copies off of each other, like they copied each other's homework. Right. Like the styling's enough different that you know at first glance they don't look like the same vehicle with different grills. Mm-hmm. So, but I guess we'll have to wait and see on that one.
That we will, Joe. That we will.
Yeah. Moving on. Mercedes-Benz G550.
Speaking of large SUVs.
Yeah.
4x4 squared.
Is that the official way to pronounce it? 4x4 squared?
Uh-huh.
What makes it a squared version of a 4x4?
It has the
16-wheel drive.
portal axles on it thing with the ridiculous spring over lift and all that stuff.
Explain what that means.
Portal axle, it takes when you look at a traditional axle and it has your differential housing that hangs lower than your axle shafts, portal axle takes everything and slaps it on top. Not only slaps it on top of those drive shafts, but the drive shafts or the shaft tubes from the axle housing themselves don't terminate at the center of the hub. They are, in fact, raised above as well, and then there's some kind of gear reduction, so there are gear system out by the wheel that takes up the space behind the wheel. So your shaft tubes going to the wheels are pretty much at the top of the rim. So you have a tremendous amount of ground clearance.
So it gives you way more ground clearance by keeping
than
all
a traditional
of the axle
would.
differential stuff.
All of the stuff
further up into the car.
And in this case, it was pretty much the top of the rim is where all that stuff was.
So how much actual ground clearance do you have then? I mean, that sounds insane.
I think it was 18 inches on that thing. I don't remember for sure.
You could drive over a toddler with that.
Actually, I think the thing holding it back was that bar on the rear and the departure angle.
Yeah,
it had the bumper.
Suffered.
The legality bumper. Yeah,
yes.
Sure.
How many owners are going to, for people who haven't seen the pictures, there's this horribly ugly bumper that hangs down like an extra foot to make it legal, I guess, for street use. How many owners are going to tear that off the minute they get it?
It's ugly too.
But the rest of the car, the rest of the vehicle.
Oh, yeah, it's great. I mean, I've had a couple of lifted Jeeps in my lifetime, and you get something up that high, and inherently you'll get a lot of wandering and lightness in the steering. But this thing was super crisp on center, and it was rock stable at I think it's an 8-speed auto in that thing, if I'm not mistaken. Or
7
I took it to the beach, and I was doing 85 in some stretches. And
on the beach or on the highway?
85 on the highway. Thanks, sir. Thanks for the
just
clarification.
I'm imagining Benny D with a
probably do
surfboard.
85 on the beach.
Say a surfboard on top of your G-Wagon, just cruising down the beach, throwing sand.
Well, I was teaching the kid how to ride waves, so I had boogie boards. But yeah,
nice.
and you could just haul, and it would just track super straight, and it was like driving a regular Mercedes sedan on the highway.
Because the inside was so, leather clad and highly luxurious as well,
diamond
right?
stitching everywhere.
Pleated suede, and suede headliner, very luxurious.
It was over $200,000, if I remember correctly. Right?
I think
Close
it was
to it,
a good bit over.
Yeah,
it was like $250 or
something.
I think base price is $123, and this one was one of the nicer ones.
Yeah. I mean,
and
it had side exit exhaust. I mean, it was visually extremely dynamic. They could have been a little louder for me.
Take it back to your high school reunion vehicle. Is that what?
Yeah, I mean, it depends, because I took it down to Ocean City, and it was a car show down there that weekend. So I had all eyes on it, and people were passing me, with taking video of me as they passed. But I did feel a little pretentious. But I could get over it pretty quick. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It is.
How many USB ports did it have?
In a vehicle like that, it doesn't even matter, because you're just taking in all the gawkingly admirable, cool energy that people are wishing they were you. And
if you can afford a G-Wagon, when your phone dies, you just buy a new phone. You don't even plug it in. Right?
It's funny you say that, because I had a different driving experience. I felt like self-conscious the entire time. Maybe it's just a difference in personality, but the way of people like just looking at me while I'm driving the car.
Environmentalists just scowling at you.
I can feel the hatred of people who either want to be me or just hate that I'm driving that car.
It was funny because I was in a backup on the way home, right? And I had tons of people looking at me and anything like that, but my kid was getting a kick out of it because there's so much torque. I would just drop the gas a little bit and then rock the brake. And on that thing, when you come to a stop, normally the thing kind of pitches back and forth a little bit. So I was just exploiting that in stop and go traffic like
just
this.
Seesawing every time you hit the brakes.
People were going crazy, and a lot of people that talked to me thought it was on airbags, and they were asking me if it could hop and stuff like that.
Oh my! Well, that was, I know, seeing it in here. It's one of those things that just so imposing. You walk past it in the parking lot and look up at it. It's like
if you're taking pictures of it, you need something to scale it, because it never portrays as large as it is in a picture.
A Raptor, because that thing was crazy tall. I mean, and that's I think what did it for me is you see it in pictures, and it doesn't seem that tall. But it's for me to get up in there, it was like I had to get a ladder. It was insane.
What about you took it off road briefly? I mean, soft road.
Oh yeah, I
briefly.
did some high-speed field crossing and stuff, and it was.
The footage looked really cool.
Yeah, but in that case, you need a little wallow in your steering and stuff like that to really feel super confident. Make no doubt about it, this thing is capable. But the current setup that it had was pretty much for street use. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
I would get a lot more sidewall if I was going to be mainly off road.
Right, you're not going to rock crawl in 20-inch rims.
Yeah, with carbon fiber
Plenty of
fenders.
people do.
and side exit exhausts, like you would have pancaked that exhaust against a frame.
Moving on.
Sorry.
Time
Brian's done
for
with it.
our lightning round, and got another long one here for you, so bear with us. The Department of Motor Vehicles of the state of Texas recently outlawed rebodied vehicles, which include dune buggies, kit cars, and other heavily modified vehicles based on mass-produced vehicles. Owners have received letters revoking their cars' titles and requesting they hand in their license plates. Say it ain't so. The Texas DMV says these vehicles lack key safety components for on-road use. So was this the right move for Texas, or is there a better way to handle this? Should dune buggies and other rebodied cars be allowed on public roads? Who's going first?
I think Benny's ready.
All right.
I'm ready.
All right.
You got 30 seconds.
Okay. Grant, there's definitely got to be a better way to handle this in Texas. This is a completely lame move. Just un-American as you can get. Good. I mean, if you want to do it, then make a different class or like a motorcycle's not safe. Are they next? Come on. Give them an inch, you're going to take a Texas mile.
Ooh,
Wow.
that was good.
Someone was prepared for that.
That was
Yeah.
that was a freestyle too.
Nice. All right, who's next?
Sure, I'll take it.
All righty. Go for
I
it.
don't know if I even have 30 seconds worth. Even before Ben started talking, I kind of always felt that dune buggies are kind of unsafe on the road. And just look at them and it doesn't seem safe. But Ben brought up a good point. I mean, motorcycles are every bit as dangerous, if not more dangerous. But I just don't see how you can just all of a sudden make a rule and say, okay, you have to turn your keys in, essentially. That to me is just not the right way to handle it.
On the dot, man. You hit
There
30.
you go.
Yeah.
So I'll go next.
Pro.
I'll say
Pro.
it's hard for me to judge. I don't live in Texas. Maybe maybe there's a lot of dune buggies down there. Maybe I'd look at the stats. Are there a lot of accidents? Are they an actual problem, or is this just some legislator that's like salty because his neighbor has a dune buggy?
Well, everything you just said could. Oh, sorry.
I'd say look at the data. Look at the data. Is it an actual problem, or is this just like a personal problem that the person who made the law made? And then I like the idea, maybe a separate class. Maybe you have to wear a helmet. Maybe they have to undergo a different kind of inspection. But like taking the plates back, not for it.
Yeah, of all states that you would think this would happen, you would not think Texas would be one of them. But
America.
So it's kind of surprising. But yeah, I would have to go with come up with a special class. Maybe people that have them already grandfather them in, that kind of. But yeah, just to go looking for people's tags. I can't imagine that's going to fly.
You should see some of the cars that drive on the roads in California because they don't have
Right, like
inspections
modified.
like we do they? Or at least, or they're way more lenient because I see some cars that should not even be on the road or near a road.
I hear you. I don't know why, but I was thinking of South Park, and I was thinking, they took our tags.
Right. I was gonna say, Brian, you've driven 3-wheelers, autocycles, that kind of. I mean, do you think it would be easy enough to make dune buggies into a class like that, where you have to wear a helmet, or?
I mean, anything can be done. I'm not sure there's that many dune buggies or rebodied vehicles that it's that big a deal, but I don't know.
I mean, if you're allowed to drive a Model A on the road, surely that's as dangerous as a dune buggy, right?
Amen. Probably more so.
Unsafe at any speed, I would say.
Anything with a 6-volt system is dangerous.
Moving on to our
4-wheel manual drums.
viewer question comes from Jeff, undetermined location. We need to purchase an SUV that can tow up to 5,000 pounds for our boat. We tow it about 8 times a year on 1-hour trips, and we do not need 3-row seating. We would like to have a nice luxury SUV that is reliable and not too expensive. We are considering the Volkswagen Touareg and the Acura MDX. What are your thoughts on these two vehicles or others? Anybody?
Grand Cherokee. Get like a lightly used one with a 5.7 liter Hemi. I mean, because he says he doesn't want a third row. And
Correct. You think that's luxurious enough?
I mean, if you get it in one of the Overland trims or one of the
Star.
other things, one of the higher end trims, I understand reliability might give some people pause, it being a Chrysler product, whatever. But I mean, those Hemi engines, people I don't hear a lot of horror stories about people with Hemis. I mean, they use Ram trucks with Hemis and don't have any problem with them. So
When I heard that question in my mind, before I knew what he was considering, I had already made up that I was thinking, I'd just tow that with a Q5. So I think you're right in the ballpark with the Touareg.
I don't think the Q5 tows 5,000 pounds, does it?
Oh, yeah. I'd have to check that out for sure.
That
But
might be 30. It might.
5,000's not that hard to achieve these days.
right, yeah, I think it depends more on the body than like the engine. You know,
Usually, yeah, wheelbase is the big thing that jumps it from 35 to 5,000. What do you think, Greg?
I don't really have much of an opinion because I don't tow much, and haven't driven an MDX in a while, and I haven't driven a Touareg in a while. So I'm going to defer to everybody else's.
When did they stop building the Touareg? Because they don't make that anymore.
2017 was last year, and I actually just looked at buying one myself.
The
And-
diesel V10 Touareg.
Well, there are still 2016 diesels out there that a lot of dealers have that they had the stop sale put on, which should be coming available pretty soon. Probably get a good deal on those. The one thing that kept me from getting one is just, as Joe kind of hinted out, the reliability issue. I mean, the Touaregs for the price are very luxurious, and I don't think they've been that unreliable, but just if you're comparing the Japanese Acura to the German Volkswagen, as far as reliability, you're going to be much better off with the Acura going down the road. And I've towed with an MDX before. They do really well. The only other thing, you can get a Pilot almost as luxurious as the MDX.
Sure.
Save yourself a few grand if you're worried about that.
Yeah, that's the luxury question
Or
for me.
Ridgeline.
I thought luxury. It's how luxurious do you want it to actually be? Because like you said, a higher level VW or a higher level Jeep, you can still get them to be pretty nice.
So, hope that helps there, Jeff. Anybody have a rant or rave or anything on your mind?
Benny D, you
Ben.
had one
I've got
earlier.
a super rant, but I could save it for the
A
next
super
one
rant.
if I've been talking too much.
No, I
do
want to
it.
hear
No
it.
such thing.
Buckle up,
Foolishness.
guys.
The anticipation.
Foolish.
I'll first preface this because I know Brian Robinson's going to say, "Sheesh, Benny D, are you ever satisfied?" But anyway,
Can't get no satisfaction.
I used to gripe about touch controls for stereos, tune knobs, and volume knobs, and now that manufacturers are changing their mistakes and we're getting the sticks we're getting the knobs back, I don't know why for the life of me people are adopting the old traditional two-stick
One on each
system
side?
because now there's no standard size to keep people from separating the distance between the two. And I was just in the Accord, and the tune knob it might as well be in the passenger side glove box. You know,
It's
it
so
is
far away?
unbelievably far away.
Well, you put a 12-inch screen between.
Can I talk here, Joe?
Well, sorry, I agree with you.
It's his rant. It's his rant.
You're diffusing my rant.
All right, sorry. Oh.
And I looked at these buttons on the Accord. The one close to me, all it does is turn it on and turn the volume up, and that's it.
Volume knob.
And the far one tunes and scrolls. So why can't I have a two-stage knob with an outer ring that tunes and the inner ring that powers and hits volume? Both are right next to me. That's what I want. Make it happen.
So
you
There's
wanna
no
go from
reason
two
for me-
knobs back to one knob.
I need one knob
That
to
does
do it
two
all,
things.
and let's face it, guys, we can make that happen. Come on, none of these are controlled to any mechanical thing. We can make that happen, and if for some reason it has to be two knobs, stack them one on top of the other on my side. I don't care
I
about
wanna say
symmetry and
somebody
beauty.
has done that.
I have-
Maybe
somebody has done it.
Maserati. Who? It was an
I thought it
FCA
was
system. I
was
thought.
it?
Yeah, I could have sworn it was like
I thought it was like BMW, but I do remember it happening, and that's how it needs to go down if you
thinking of,
can't
like,
make it one knob.
Mid-'90s Buick
I remember,
Centuries
yeah,
had
the-
something like that,
Yeah,
where there was
outer and
a
inner knob.
the outer and the
yeah,
inner knob.
Simple.
Yeah.
Simple and right there.
All right.
Well,
I'm
okay,
sure
if we-
every manufacturer's listening right now.
Why
So.
are there no tune knobs on steering wheels? You got great volume knobs on, I think.
Oh yeah,
Who
a
is
lot
it?
of stuff.
Some of them have arrows
So
that
that's
go through the presets
Volvo.
that you can set that to actually tune, be a seek instead of going through presets.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's something I think is lost on us a lot of the time, admittedly, because we're in and out of different cars, and most people do have their presets, which are really what you should be using. Because how many people listen to more than? Because now you can preset like I don't know.
Cars come with like
30
20
stations,
presets. Yeah.
Yeah, granted, the familiarity, if I was in it that long, for sure.
But I do agree.
But the
you're-
problem
it's
is, on a
not
test
just-
drive situation, you're not in it that long.
It's not
That's a good
just
point.
the tune knob. It's whatever other controls are on the far side of the touchscreen. The bigger the touchscreen gets, the further away those controls are. Like you said, some of
Right.
them are like only the passenger
Well,
can reach
there's
them.
one thing. It's voice control. Voice control should get better.
You sound like
I've
John
talked about
Davis.
Yeah,
There's no reason voice control can't be better.
Or
in
I
cars.
should give it
I've
more
already
of a
went on
try.
that. All right, let's just end the
Yeah.
podcast.
I don't even like
This is
talking to
getting worse.
people. I certainly don't want to sit in my car and talk to Ed all day.
Especially if it doesn't
You're not having
understand
a
what you're saying.
conversation.
It needs to install a punching bag horn button if that's the case.
Let's. All right. Sounds like a great place to end this podcast. So I would like to thank our audio engineer, David Wainwright, our podcast creator, Bob Mixter, producer Joe Lago, and of course our studio audience. Thanks for checking us out, and be sure to check us out on our actual TV show as well as on the internets and everywhere else you can find us. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com, State Farm, and WeatherTech. For additional information on podcasts, videos, and showtimes, visit our website at motorweek.org. And watch MotorWeek, television's longest-running automotive magazine series each week on your local PBS station.